Hi, we're Quaint and Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today, I'm going to talk about the tag called the Read Smart tag. I guess I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to participate in it. So today is tag, well, it's Wednesday, but it's the Wednesday after Tag Tuesday, so it's still appropriate to do tags. Tags are in the bookish part of YouTube a little tradition where someone will create a list of prompts to get people to talk about their reading life or books they enjoy or have read. And it's kind of a nice way to have conversation among booktubers and see what you have in common with people or to get some ideas. The Read Smart tag was created a few weeks ago by two readers that may concern, which is a channel is fairly new, I think, and I've been enjoying it a lot. He does very thoughtful, meditative, um, lengthy videos. He's a very serious reader. Um, and also by Prose and Petticoats, who reads a lot of classics and has been doing this for quite a while. Has some great videos about Tolstoy and all sorts of other um, classic literature that she reads. I was tagged by Book Chat with Pat, and I was also tagged by Reading Ideas. And those are, of course, great channels that, if you don't know, you should check out. Although, if you're watching me, you probably are aware of them. Okay, so the Read Smart tag questions there are 9 of them. The first one is, what is your strategy to stay focused and engaged while reading? I don't really have one, um, but if I'm not staying focused and engaged, I take that as a sign that it's time to maybe do something else. I have certain times of day that I tend to read, and a certain place that I tend to read, and when I'm in those times and places, I'm reading. Sometimes I am distracted, and that just means that whatever I'm reading is not really doing it for me. However, I do have. I live with my wife. And I live with my little dog. I don't have a bunch of children vying for my attention. It can be as noisy or as quiet as I want to most of the time. So I don't have a television going. I don't have. I usually don't have music playing while I'm reading. So yeah, it's just peace and quiet and a comfortable chair is what I need. Boy, I sure took a long time to answer that question. Let's see. How does your environment influence your focus, and what can you do to optimize it? Well, I kind of already said that, didn't I? My environment, actually, I've read in a lot of environments. The main thing I think that keeps me from focusing sometimes is if there's like a television and there's a lot of dialogue. Listening to that might kind of tug at me a bit if it's at such a volume that I can hear it. But I've read in all kinds of places and situations. When I used to commute, I would read while I was driving, or I'm just kidding. I didn't read while I was driving. But on buses and trains and things, I would subways. You can read. Even standing up and propping open a paperback and holding it with one hand while you're hanging on the strap. Good times. But actually, I think it's Chris at Leaf by Leaf who said that sometimes if he's really into a book, he'll bring it with him in the car and read a sentence or two at a stoplight. I think that's a bit intense. But if you know Chris at Leaf by Leaf, he's an intense dude. So, what else do we have? What methods do you use to retain and recall information from what you've read? I usually don't. I don't. I usually don't care that much about retaining and recall. I don't. I think my approach these days is generally and I think is from Harry Crews. The good stuff sticks. The things that are important will stay with me. So I will talk a bit about remembering things and finding places in books for a later prompt. I think a lot of these kind of overlap a bit. Um, how do you approach difficult or challenging material? The same way I approach anything. I pick it up and I start reading. When I was reading Ulysses a couple of years ago, there's so much around that. That I did watch some videos saying here are some things to read to be prepared for Ulysses. So, I read Hamlet and I read the Odyssey again, and I think there was another book that I read the two other Joyce books that preceded it because some of those characters are in there. So that's four books that I read before I started reading Ulysses, and then I read I think it was the Bloomsday book, the new Bloomsday book, maybe another one. So another book to explain what's going. So, but I usually don't do that. Difficult or challenging material, I usually try to get a good edition which has an introduction and notes if I think I'll need that. But sometimes I don't. I mean, I read the edition of Middlemarch. I read didn't have notes, had just a bare introduction, and I just read it. So I don't. I don't know. I guess I approach it the same way. I pick up the book. I start on page one and I read through it. And what role do note-taking and annotation play in your reading process? So this is interesting. I'm a very inconsistent note taker, and I think that if I'm enjoying a book a lot, I'm less likely to take notes or underline or annotate. For example, I just read Dune and did not take a single note, did not underline anything. Every time I picked it up, I very quickly fell into the story and just went with it. On the other hand, I read called The Canyon, which I reviewed here last week, Zane Grey Western. Not something that is most people would put anywhere near the level of reputation as Dune, but I did underline and annotate a few places because I had a feeling I was going to make a video about it and I wanted to remember where certain things were in it. So this is something that I've gotten into the habit of doing since I've been on BookTube, is just making notes on one of the fly leaves or inside the cover of pages and what happens in spots where I might want to read an excerpt to my imaginary YouTube friends. So and I've been annotating my copies of In Search of Lost Time as I read them. I don't know why. I think it helps me get into that a little bit. So I guess I'm contradicting myself a bit. Now I'm seeing why everyone's take on this tag has spun out to insane lengths. Okay, let's see if we can pick up the pace. How do you balance reading for pleasure with reading for personal or professional development? I mostly read for pleasure, and I read for personal, professional development when I have to learn a new thing. A lot of the times, I will be doing that while I'm trying to, I do a lot of professional reading. If I'm working on something, I need to learn about a certain technology or framework or program or language. I will be reading about that kind of as needed for the project that I'm working on. And I think other things that I do, I get various newsletters and mailing lists for developers and technology people that I'll skim through in my email and see if there's anything I want to follow up on and read later. But most of my reading is for pleasure. So, what is the, in other words, when I'm reading, I'm usually reading a book and I'm reading it through professional stuff. More often, it's an article here or there. So, what is the importance of setting reading goals? I don't think it's important at all, but I tend to do it. So, one of the common reading goals is to have is on the Goodreads, your yearly challenge, whatever they call it, where you say at the beginning, I'm going to read 5,000 books this year, and then you get a little progress bar. It's very satisfying. I think you can agree. So I don't think it's important, but I think it's kind of fun. I always set it to the same level. I've always exceeded it, sometimes by more, sometimes by less. But it's just a thing. I feel like this is my most boring video to date. What are some strategies for overcoming reading slumps or lack of motivation? Go do something else and come back to reading when you're ready. This is, unless you have to read a thing for your job or to keep your loved ones from being imprisoned or something. I don't know. Reading is not the only hobby, in my opinion. It's one of the best ones. But if you're not feeling like doing it, I don't know that you need to motivate yourself to do it. So that's me. And last tag, it tags some people. So I feel like everyone I know has already done this one at great length, except for a couple. Reading Ideas tagged Libro Parody, so I'm going to tag him too. He hasn't been on for a while, but he makes some good videos when he's of a mind to do it. And another channel that I recently started watching, which is the Dusty Skeptic, which I think also she has a channel called Strange Identity Paper. It's a booktuber who's been around for a while. I found her because she did a video responding to a Katie Books video. Katie Books I've been a fan of for a long time, but she responded to a video he did where he discussed one of the more controversial surahs of the Quran, and she responded to that as very interesting, her thoughts on that. So anyway, check that out, and I think she does tag, so Strange Mentality Paper, that's what it is. If you want to do this tag, please do, and if you're watching and you want to do this tag, has anyone tagged that reading guy? I'm tagging that reading guy. He's got a good channel too. Okay, that's all I have today. Thanks for watching.